I've just had every green light, you know.
What does it really take to thrive in the high-pressure world of TV presenting? From presenting 500 episodes in one of Australia's most loved shows, Better Homes and Gardens, winning under the dazzling ballroom lights of Dancing with the Stars, to his latest show, TopKnotZ, is essentially Top Gear on water, with a focus on marine leisure, adventure and lifestyle. If it's on, in or under the water, that's Rob's new playground. Today, you'll step into the world of Rob Palmer.
You get caught in this world that's sort of, it's almost not real.
A man who's built a media career on perseverance, family and unmistakable Aussie charm. Discovered by chance, Rob soared to TV stardom, weathered its highs and lows.
It is, it's a feeling of falling. I felt like I'd lost a part of myself.
How does Rob stay grounded amid soaring successes? This isn't just a story of fame, a true song and dance man, down to earth yet high octane. In this episode, you'll hear why staying true to your roots matters and what's coming next on the horizon for this multifaceted star. Sit back, relax, and get ready to hear Rob Palmer unplugged like never before. Thanks for coming on, mate.
No worries at all. I think it started with my dad. He just said, say yes to everything, Rob. Whenever you're doing something, just say yes. And if you work out how you're going to do it once you get there. A lot of people ask me how I started, like what made you get into TV? I guess it was just dumb luck. It was saying yes when, you know, saying no would have been, I guess, an easy option. But, you know, I ended up in trouble at school, in science, not big trouble, just mucking around in class like anyone does. And the detention that day was to go to the theaterette at the school and attend drama auditions as detention, because the guy who gave me detention was doing the lighting for the play.
Wow.
Mr. Barry Mott, our science teacher, God bless him. And then he introduced me to Mel Morrow, who was doing the auditions for the day. And we were told that we weren't just sitting there for detention, we had to get up and do something. So we did this little performance, my mate and I, and we just took the piss out of it completely and ended up with lead roles in the Year 10 play. And we just thought, you know, this is the longest fucking detention of all time. But I loved it. And so by the time I'd finished Year 10, I was into acting. And I did a couple of plays. Eventually, after school, did a couple of musicals with the same guy. And then before I knew it, someone wanted a carpenter who wouldn't fall apart in front of a camera. And I'd done my trade by the age of about 24. And they said, oh, Robbie, he'll have a go. He does this stuff. And then they gave me a role on a TV show and it went from there. We did a screen test. I hung a door. I was that nervous about doing it. I hung this thing. I tried to hang it upside down and we oh, whoops. And that was it. They said, right, we'll give him a shot.
Wow.
So, and then it sort of went from there. And once you're in the door,
they just had to hit record on you.
You know, things just kept going. I just found that enthusiasm was a good way for me to mask any inadequacy.
Right.
Well, when I'm nervous, and a lot of people get nervous in certain situations, if I'm nervous, I cover it with enthusiasm, I think, and it might be a defence mechanism, but it's kind of worked.
Wow, it has kind of worked.
Absolutely.
It has kind of worked.
You know, you get in a room full of, 500 people and you've got to do an MC role or a speaking role and, you're shitting yourself sometimes. You get up there and actually laughing at your own mistakes and making that part of what you're doing sometimes helps the performance. Just embrace any stuff-ups and hopefully everyone comes along for the ride.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever written anything as a speech. I've always made it up on the spot.
Wow. What does a rugby club do for blokes?
Just any sort of club, any sort of involvement in something where once you're in that situation, you're involved, you're included, you're valued, and that is really powerful, I think, for a lot of guys. I think the post-match camaraderie within the clubs and even between clubs, where you'd go after spending 4 or 5 hours beating the absolute crap out of each other to then stand around a bar and have a beer and say g'day. It was a great experience because you could separate, the battle from the friendship kind of thing, even when, between opposing sides. And I still occasionally see guys that I used to play against and will say g'day and shake hands and say, how you going? So it's a long-lasting thing.
With your career, you played through that time?
Yeah, I did. I had to hide all sorts of problems. You'd come in with a half black eye to try and shoot a Better Homes and Gardens segment on a Monday morning and they would, oh God, Palmer, what have you done? Get some makeup on him. So there were times where I had to cover stuff up, but I was playing the whole way through.
Did it ground you a bit, the rugby club?
Yeah, they did. I did a musical once, had the whole rugby club turn up, and they were laughing at me so hard they were missing their wine glasses as they were pouring drinks in the front row. And I guess it's grounding. They don't let you get away from yourself. With what I did on TV, I was very lucky because I was really just being myself. I had to, just a carpenter who was making stuff. And, I got great joy out of doing that and just bringing enthusiasm to something so that, I felt that excitement for the mundane was actually a really good way to approach it because it just made boring stuff a bit more interesting, I suppose, let's clean our gutters. And you go, there's definitely, I think if you get excited about stuff that's routine, it can actually help you inside as well because you feel like, I'm all right with this.
Yeah.
And I rarely cared about what other people may or may not think of what I was doing because...
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think that the response to my enthusiasm was positive from the start. And I think that's very lucky, that you had a positive affirmation of what you were doing. When I did the first play at school, I was packing it that I was going to be laughed out of the school. And at that stage, I was only just developing my friendships. And just saying yes to something can sometimes put you into a space that you would not otherwise be in, and it surprises people. And when people are surprised, sometimes they appreciate what you're doing. I found myself feeling very lucky for what had happened. And at that time, these building shows were a dime a dozen. They were all over the place. So there was a lot of opportunity there. And I guess I was just lucky. And they just needed a carpenter for this show and I was there. And so what happened was Murdoch magazines were making 2 programs. One was Live This that we did. That was my first opportunity. And one was Better Homes and Gardens. And our show Live This, it was sort of like a younger version of Better Homes and Gardens. And it lasted a year and a half or maybe 2, and it was fantastic.
Was that Channel 7? Or?
That was Channel 10.
Yeah, Channel 10.
So Murdoch gave 1 to Channel 10 and then Better Homes went to Channel 7.
Right.
And then once Channel 10 became impatient and axed our show, then I just kept knocking on the door of Better Homes and Gardens to see Michael Dawes, who was the executive producer of both, and said, mate, I'm not done here. And he said, nah, look, there's nothing at the moment. And I think it was just persistence. That got the job. Eventually, I went to him 3 times before he said, look, if you stop hassling me, I'll give you a trade tips segment once a fortnight and you can, it'll be 15 to 30 seconds and you do a trade tip. And then, so we did, okay, great. The first ever trade tip for me on Better Homes, I think, was changing a fuse wire, which is redundant now, but we did that and then it sort of went from there and built. And then the guy... Scotty McGregor, who used to do all the DIY before I did, he left the show at the end of that year and they needed someone. So I was, I guess, Johnny on the spot.
When they hit record, you just
get excited. Just go, look at this tail, this timber's beautiful. What can I make out of this? And then you just sort of go for it. There was always a plan. You would never just turn up on the day and go, what are we going to do, guys? There was always a plan. So, you can't just shoot something with no idea of where you're going to finish up.
Would you just have bullets or...
Yeah, well, there'd be a start. This is how we want to start here and we want to finish here. And then from there, it was just step by step.
Right.
So, and just explaining. And sometimes you would see something that was difficult, maybe that you would think is difficult, and try and simplify it. So if you get a builder over to your house and you're talking to them and they're going, oh, you need to do this and this and this. And by the time they finished one sentence, you're lost because they use a lot of technical jargon. So I tried to, I guess, eliminate the technical jargon and make it more, like 2 people having a chat.
They say you only need 1 believer. You obviously believed in yourself, but did you have someone who believed in you?
Yeah, that's a good point. My grandfather always said, and I'll never forget, there's a lot of little things that used to be said, like sayings and stuff, that I've held on to. Dad's first one was no grudges. That's the hardest one, I think, of all to actually live by. To have no grudges.
Right.
When you get a smack on the backside and you'd be sent to bed and then your dad would come in half an hour later and go, righto, son, let's have a chat. No grudges, okay? And you go, come on, mate, you just slapped me on the ass. And I'd go, it was hard. And so, but growing up, to try and maintain no grudges is something I've tried to live by. But as far as a supporter, a great supporter, of course, my parents were really strong supporters of mine. A guy called Mel Morrow was the guy who directed the first play I was in. And he wrote a musical for me. I did a singular musical with myself and a pianist at a cafe in Chippendale when I was 25, I think. And that was nerve-wracking, but he was a great supporter. And he always said that there was something that, I was able to do that he wanted to nurture and promote and use. And it was really it was really empowering to have him in my corner, I suppose. You're right. And to have a supporter is a great asset. But Grandpa would also, he used to say, if it is to be, the 10 most important 2-letter words you're ever going to hear strung together, Robbie, is if it is to be, it is up to me. And you go, hang on, Grandpa, that's pretty good.
Nice.
And then, so I guess that's something else that I've always sort of thought, if I don't say yes, no one's going to do it for me.
What would be your 3 pieces of advice for someone coming up?
Probably not to expect anything. I think really is just to say yes to opportunity, regardless of whether or not at the time.
So that means invitations. What is that? Yeah, opportunity.
Well, actually, there was a movie I watched with my kids that they had a good laugh at. It was I think it was called Yes Day or something like that, where the parents have to say yes to anything the kids ask, and they end up having the most brilliant time. But it's kind of that, but to a lesser extent. But recently I was asked if I'd like to do a musical in Perth, and I just said yes. Said yeah, I'd love to, and I had no idea. I'm still actually reeling it. I've just seen the script, and there's a lot of it. So anyway, we've got to learn this script. I'm playing Edna Turnblad in Hairspray over in the Perth Casino in September, and
Right. Okay.
so I think we're doing 28 shows in a month.
So you've got an agent now these days?
No. I just sort of work with myself.
Okay.
But the lady who was putting the play on, who was putting the musical on, and part of the creative team, I've known for many years from telethons, Perth telethons that I've been over to in WA, and I love WA. It's a great part of Australia. It's probably the friendliest part of this country I've ever been to, and it's really, I don't know, I just got something about it, and I thought I'm going to do a musical. It's been many years, but it's exciting, and it's actually, since I've finished up with Better Homes and Gardens, I did 6 years of breakfast radio, and now that's finished. So something else just came up, and I've just said yes, I suppose.
So say yes to things. What else, Rob?
I think
I like the simplicity of that. Maybe that's it.
I think it's okay to doubt yourself, but at the same time, I've always found that every job that anyone ever does in the world is done by a human, right? And we're all different in our own ways, and some people have greater strengths and greater, some people are rocket scientists, some people are builders, some people are, doctors, and everyone has their own strength. But I think it's possible for a human to learn to do anything if you have a passion to want to do it. So if there's something that you want to do, I don't think you should feel that you can't do it. I think you should feel that it's okay to try. And if you want to do it enough, I think trying will be enough for you, because we're all human and you have to learn it somehow. A doctor, the difference between the greatest doctor in the world and me might only be 12 years of study and dedication, right? I might not have that. The doctor has that, and he's done it because she's done it because there was a passion, and some people have it more than others. But I just feel if you want to do something, you can train yourself to do it.
Can-do attitude, say yes, I'm liking it.
So while I love building, I actually 100 times more love, I guess, feeling the impact of a performance or seeing an audience reaction to something. Or
going back to year 10, you got that exhilaration thing, did it? Is that right?
Yeah.
It
was instant. And, I had my hair slicked back, and it was an Edwardian play from 1904 or something. And, it was brilliant. The Voisey Inheritance by Henry Granville Barker.
Sliding doors, you got that detention. Look what happened.
It was all based on detention, and this guy called Mel Morrow, who just saw something in these two clowns that might add to his year 10 play that year, and so he lumped us in it.
Wow.
We had a great time.
You do need a bit of luck?
You do. I think, it helps. You can be as positive as you like, but if everything's going against you, sometimes I guess that can feel like you just don't have an out. And I think that's a real problem for a lot of people, and a lot of guys especially, is that why is every time I turn the corner, why is the door shutting? And that I can't imagine, because I've been very lucky. But, that'd be a real test, I'd imagine. People say, oh, you make your own luck. And, to some extent you need to put yourself in a position to be lucky.
Yeah. But sometimes you just need raw luck.
I guess sometimes you do. Yeah. I've just had every green light, And I think celebrating the small wins makes you feel like there's positive in the day, even if, the bigger decisions don't go your way. We were doing a Bunnings show once. We do these big shows and poor old Hodgie, we'd been at the casino the night before till very late. And we were playing blackjack, I think, at about 2 a.m. and we had to it was on call for 7 a.m. and I thought, oh, what are we doing here, Hodgie? Wow. But anyway, we're having a good time because I love him like a brother, but we, he'd met, I don't know how far into this I should go. He'd met a couple of people, let's say, and they took a liking to him. And I've just said, Hodgie, are you talking to girls or are you playing cards with me? He goes, I'm not playing cards with you anymore, Palmer. So I went to bed, but I don't think he did. Anyway, it was a long night for Hodgie, and then I saw him the next day and he was a shadow of a man and I was not much better. But, we had to push a trolley around Bunnings with a host of people and just, I guess, smile. But sometimes you would push the envelope a little too far the night before because it's like a party environment. We all once went to Tamworth and watched the Wallabies play the All Blacks in the local hotel the night before we had to do this Bunnings thing the next day. The whole cast of Better Homes and Gardens was all in the downstairs bar at this, roadside motel, and we had a great night. And I'm sure everyone felt a little bit dusty the next day, but, it's like anything. You just dust yourself off and just play on. Basically, Bunnings gave the show a truck ton of money and said, we'd like you to do your show in a Bunnings store. So we'd go to the Bunnings store and go, right, we can do wonders with this. You can get lost in a Bunnings store for about 10 hours. Wow. There's so much stuff to do in there. You walk down one aisle and before you know it, it's like when you go to the supermarket for a dozen eggs and you walk out with a full trolley. You just can't help yourself. Exactly. And they know it too. I remember getting a great tip from Dr. Harry. He said, mate, because we were going to get a dog and we were looking for this. We went and went to the RSPCA and there was a litter that was left there. They were an Alsatian crossed with a cattle dog. And so there were all these little puppies there. And Dr. Harry, I'd said to him, we're going to get a dog, Harry. And he goes, righto. I said, where? He said, where are you going? And I told him, he went, good on you. And then he said, look, when you're picking a dog, this is what I do. And he said, roll the dog onto its back and then hold it with your hand. Just hold it there. And the one that'll nip at you is not for you because it's trying to dominate you. And the one that basically puts his paws in the air and sticks his tongue out and goes, you're the boss. That's the one for you because he's, accepting you as the master. So we did that with every one of these little puppies and there was one or two that just went, yes, please. And so that was our dog and he was the greatest dog of all time. He was born on Better Homes and Gardens and, he was there right through and actually died before I'd left the show. Wow. So it was, they became very much a family, Better Homes and Gardens, and not just the guys on screen, but the guys off screen as well, some of whom I'm still very good friends with.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I feel lucky. I just feel lucky because, I never, ever found myself in a position where I was doing something that I didn't enjoy for a long period of time. I think building I always enjoyed. I started my own carpentry business, so even though now that carpentry business does no building work, it's still there, it still exists. And so I contract to various, entities through that company. And I've never worked for anyone as an employee, except for my dad when I was a young bloke. I did a building degree. I went to uni while I was at Better Homes and Gardens because I figured that one day they were going to flick the switch and say, we've had enough of you. So I didn't want to leave empty-handed. So, I was always involved in it. It's just that the income stream comes from different places now. So I would invoice my company, the building company would invoice the radio station or they'd invoice Channel 7 for the contract sum. And then so they would, that was the income source.
Oh, I see.
And then I just worked for my company.
Right. So you were on TV playing rugby and then you start a family?
Oh, hang on, how'd that happen? I met my wife in Wales. I was over for the World Cup in '99.
She was a presenter?
She was, yeah. She's won 2 BAFTAs, or programs that she was on, won 2 BAFTAs. And
wow.
She worked in Welsh television, so through the medium of Welsh. And when I met her, I barely even realised there was a Welsh language. That's just a dumb 25 5-year-old Australian that had gone overseas and was just learning about the world. So
What were you over there for? Sorry.
I went. Oh, actually, when was it? No, it was the year. It was 90. Must have been 98. Anyway, I went over. Four mates of ours went travelling, went snowboarding around and skiing around the States, and I spent my life savings. I said to Dad, this is another great piece of advice from my father. I'd saved, by the time must have been 25, and I'd saved about $20,000 through working and whatever. I had my trade. And I wanted to go overseas, but I also was talking to a guy about buying an apartment and using this 20 grand as part of a deposit for the apartment. And I said, Dad, I want to buy this apartment. I don't want to I don't want to lose this opportunity. It's a great opportunity. But my mates are going overseas and, I don't know what to do. He said, son, you can buy an apartment for the rest of your life, but you won't get this opportunity to go overseas with your friends ever again. So
And you don't regret that.
So then off I went. Yeah, went with them, spent every cent of that 20 grand, probably plus another 5 or more probably at least that I'd borrowed from Mum and Dad. And it was the greatest time of my life. And at the end of that year away, I met my wife and Gwen Thean. She'd hate me calling her Gwen. But met her in Wales and we came back, fell in love, got married 2 years later and started having children. So she's a TV presenter and I was just building at the time. I hadn't started, I'd done a bit of acting for fun, but I hadn't started Better Homes and Gardens or any TV stuff.
Right.
I think she liked me
That's
because
interesting.
she didn't want to have someone who was in the media business and she liked the fact that I was a carpenter. Oh. And we just hit it off. And then by the time she came out to Australia to do a program for the 2000 Olympics, I'd got this job on Channel 10 and she came out and said, what are you doing? You've got this job on Channel 10 now. I said, oh, yeah, it just sort of happened. And we fell in love over the Olympics, really. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
And then, got married not long later. And
does that give you a different perspective on things?
yeah, I'm still probably a bit selfish, to be honest. I think it gives you you realise that there's a family to love and to be with. And also, I guess, to support in some cases, not always. Sometimes the support comes from who knows where. But I think the love is the important thing and just the pride in them. I love watching them grow up. I like to see what they do. I like to let them sort of run their own path.
Have you got any, I don't know whether it was when you're on primetime TV or something or on the cover of Woman's Day and that, like what's a funny story?
I was in the supermarket once. My kids were going off their nut. And you know how when you're in a supermarket with two kids that just will not listen to anything,
Right.
you're going, oh, please help me. And so I'm going along, oh, can we have this? No, you can't have that. No, can we have that? Oh, give me that. Come, he's got one. And yeah, far out. And this woman, all she wanted to know was when I was going to come round to her yard with Better Homes and Gardens and fix the problems out the back. I was going, oh, look, right now is probably not the best time to discuss. I'm just dealing with some kids here. Oh, yeah, but look, who do I write to? Because I've got this thing in my backyard. Couldn't have given a blind stuff that I was struggling with two kids in the supermarket. But anyway, you try not to judge people. She probably had reasons for being persistent, but I just wanted to tell her to go and go jump.
Right.
But yeah, it didn't.
Like, would you get recognised stuff like that? Or
I think everyone's mum likes me. It seems, I don't know why it is. My mum watches you and you go, oh, all right, say good day to mum. And it's funny, I was in a bar not long ago and there was a 25-year-old that, remembered me building cubby houses when they were a kid watching Better Homes and Gardens. So I think people remember. There was one Logies night. We went to the Logies. Better Homes and Gardens did really well over many years, and so.
What do you think that secret recipe was? That
I don't know. I think that all the guys that I was working with were very genuine, and it just felt like a couple of mates talking. I just like to talk to the camera as a mate rather than as a camera, and then I found that would translate and have actual genuine. And have a genuine enthusiasm for what I was doing. Yeah. So then, I don't know. I don't know why it went so well. There was a lot of people behind the scenes that made it a great show. And there was a lot of money spent on making it a great show, I'm sure. So you know, we were the beneficiaries of a lot of hard work, and you know, there've been over 1,000 episodes of it now. So yeah, it's lasted the distance. Yeah. We went to the Logies once, and I think we'd won a few in the past. And all I wanted to do was race Jo Griggs to the microphone because she could, you know, she is a brilliant speaker, and she knew how to thank everyone. She knew, you know, how to be gracious and humble. And I thought, bugger you, Griggs, I'm not giving you the microphone this year. So we're announced, yeah, Better Homes and Gardens win the Logie. So we ran up the top. I've run up the front and thanked the under 11 Whites from Manly Roos Rugby Club for their support. You know, it was so stupid. But and then I had the microphone taken off me and was shuffled to the back for the rest while Jo did her business. But yeah, there were some good times. Those Logies parties were wild too. I don't know that I can really reveal too much, but there was some.
So that's true.
There were some loose evenings. They had the Crown Palladium, I think it was called. They had this big red carpet thing. It was kind of funny because your hotel was 50 metres from the place, but you had to walk around the back of the hotel, get in a stretch limousine, drive 3 blocks because it was one way, and then come in the front door in a limousine to something you could have walked to in about a tenth of the time.
Right.
Everyone comes from around the corner, but they all come in stretch limos. It was pretty weird.
Right.
And
that's funny.
Remember the time that One Direction were there, and we were behind One Direction, and so it was like the Beatles were in town. The screaming was intense. You couldn't even. It hurt your ears. Because One Direction, and we just walk along and you just hear the red carpet just erupt. And then so we wanted to hear a bit of that. And then here comes Better Homes and Gardens. Guys, see you later, guys. One Direction's over there. What do we think of One Direction? And they would scream their heads off. It was wild. There were lots of great people you would meet and chat to. And I think everyone deep down is just a regular person. Yeah. You know, I think that, you know, TV cops a lot of stick for having a lot of egos in it, but I think they're sure there's egos, but a lot of people are really cool.
Yeah.
Molly Meldrum I liked. Right. Molly Meldrum was a great fella. He was a bit loose.
What did you like about Molly?
As a person, you sit down and have a drink with Molly and have a chat. And
what do you think? Why did you like him?
I don't know what it was. Yeah. He always had his little dog with him. And... you know,
he was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, you'd catch up with him, you know, downstairs at the telethon in Perth. He'd be down there at the hotel foyer and sitting around the bar at, you know, any particular time of the day. Didn't mind a drink, just quietly, but he was just fun, genuine. I liked him, and I don't know what it was, but we sort of got on. You
didn't mind all of it. Is what
a lot of my friends go, "How the hell do you cope with people coming up to say hello all the time?" And I find that people are pretty genuinely happy to see you.
Yep.
No one's throwing rocks at me. They just go, "Oh, g'day, you Rob from Better Homes and Gardens." You go, yeah. So, and then now I guess it's more, I know you. Like, it's like everyone thinks you're their second cousin.
Right.
But
they're not quite sure, sort of thing.
Yeah. Are you from the... Hang on a sec. I went to the doctor the other day and he said, "Oh, it's good to have you back." And I was going, "I haven't been here before." He goes, "Oh, yeah, right." So, anyway, so it's kind of weird.
Right. It seems like you're made and built for that, though. Like you just seem like you don't have a worry about it.
Quite a lot of it, you just think, okay, I worked hard and I did something, but I don't know if it's pride. I think it's more a satisfaction. Yeah. I don't know that pride's such a good thing to have too much of, because you what do they say? Pride comes before a fall.
Yeah. Did you ever find you might have been getting a little bit ahead of yourself and like believing a little bit of your own press and success and stuff like that? It may not have happened, but
I used to get on the slop a fair bit. Like, you'd go out and you just go out and you'd be out all night. And I probably overindulged, and you'd go on road trips and, it was always about the party. And I think I got a little caught up in the party.
Did anyone pull you?
I don't know that. I had a chat. Joe said to me once, he said, "Mate, there's a couple of guys at the network that, just watch yourself." So I was like, "Fuck, thanks, mate." She was like a real sister. Just said, "Oh yeah, just be careful." So and that was a wake up call for me to say, "Hey, listen, maybe you're playing a little bit too much." So, and you got to pull back sometimes. You got to really know that if you get caught in this world that's sort of, it's almost not real. So everything you do is paid for. Like, no, you know, it's, you know, who travels around the, you know, staying at all these places and doing all this stuff and having all this fun, and it's all just on the table for you. So it's sort of, you know, you got to. Sometimes you got to pull yourself back and say, "Far out, just slow down a bit, fella."
So that did happen, yeah. And did you find when that, you know, things come to they run their course, did you find you had to adjust, a bit of adjustment going on?
Yeah, it was a really hard year. The year I left Better Homes and Gardens was really quite hard. It was, I felt like I'd lost a part of myself, you know, and you thought, what am I going to do now?
Part of yourself, right. A bit of identity.
You know, it was the best part of, you know, 13, 14 years of doing this, and I thought it didn't seem right. And it wasn't till probably 8 months. Well, we just had our third child at the time, and so yeah, I kind of went, oh, righto, what now? And it was. I just didn't know what to do. Started a YouTube channel because I thought I better do something. Like I just had to do something. So I started a YouTube channel. I mean, I could have just gone out and I guess got a regular job, but I just felt like there was maybe some more scope in me for doing something in the media. So I did a YouTube channel, which it had, you know, moderate success and it was growing, but it just became a lot of work for what seemed like a little reward. And then I started doing some radio stuff, and that was when I got this job with Triple M on the Central Coast, which just sort of popped up because I was doing a Triple M Modern Digital 2 hours a month of broadcasting, and it was like them coaching you how to do radio. And then someone sort of said, "Do you want to do this thing up the Central Coast?" And I said, "Yep, no problem." I sort of didn't know if that was the right thing to do, but it lasted for 6 years. So,
right.
You know,
and that was existing contact, or?
Well, no, it's just, I don't know, it's just saying yes to stuff. At that time, I had an agent who had spoken to someone about doing the digital radio stuff, but it didn't really have a future. And it was I was just sort of swimming a little bit, trying to get through it. So, and that was lucky to come up. I'm glad it did come up. And so now 6 years later, now I'm sort of in the similar position again because the radio's shut down and I'm doing a musical. So who knows?
Yeah. Is there something, not to go, that's a beautiful high, but was there something you wouldn't want to go through again?
It was probably that year after I'd finished Better Homes and Gardens.
Yeah.
I really felt like that was a point where I had to find myself.
Yeah.
You know, I went back to doing building work again. I'd gone back to my brother and my dad and said, "Hey, can I work with you guys for a bit?"
Oh, right, yep.
Because, you know, I had a family and I had a mortgage. You know, that doesn't disappear.
No.
So, not that working with them was low, it was just that I felt like I was actually going backwards to something that I'd sort of moved from years earlier. But I enjoyed the work. It's just that it felt very different. You know, you felt like something's just, the rug's been taken out from under me. And that, you know, it's a feeling of falling, but I think you've got to find something to stop you falling, and then you can work on getting up again.
Wow. What's your current focus, Rob?
Oh, we're doing a pilot for a new TV show.
Right.
It's going to go off. Hopefully, Channel 9 look like where it may end up. We'll see how we go. But it's basically, you know, Top Gear.
Yeah.
Well, this is like TopKnotZ. It's Top Gear, but for boats and water sports.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to do that. So we'll see. We've shot most of the pilot, and if it comes off, that would just be epic. I would love to get back into TV. We'll see what happens.
Wow.
So watch this space. We might have a new program to show you in about 6 months.
Wow. That's huge. Yeah.
I was doing commercials it came out of working with a guy who was a great producer, Richard Scotts, and he's been in rugby for many years. He's been in sports presenting and production, media production for a long time, and he was doing ads for Agnew, the building mob that I'm working with, and we worked together and we did some stupid stuff for some advertisements, and we just got on really well. And so he reached out and said, "Oh, look, I'm doing this program. We're doing a pilot for it. I think you'd be a good fit. Do you want to come and do some stuff?" So I said, "Yep."
Wow.
And away we went.
Says yes again.
You just got to say yes, I think.
I think it's amazing that you're not done. You know what I mean? Like,
Nah.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Dad always said, and this is the one thing I think my whole family, I think, understands that you cannot change what happened yesterday, but you can work on making tomorrow better. So, and that's, I've watched my dad live that. I've watched my brother go through it. I've watched, our whole family, I think, has that in them. And that's that, yesterday is done. So to think about yesterday and dwell on yesterday too much is not going to help you make tomorrow better.
Would you do anything differently?
Nah, do it all again, same way, probably.
Hey, Rob, thanks for coming on. It's been great.
Thanks, Chris. Pleasure, mate.
Yeah.
Real pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm sort of humbled to be asked, but thanks very much.
Upwards and onwards. It was awesome. Thanks,
Good
mate.
stuff. Let's say yes.
It's been another world. I'm Chris Thomas, and thanks for watching.